Hola amigos, esta es una lección breve en los usos de por y para. So in English we use the word for many different ways, but in Espanol we've got por and we've got para. We need to start practicing when to use each one. So we'll start with para. There's a couple of reasons to use para, and I'll give you examples of the kinds of sentences that would go with them. First of all, and you've done this before, we use para to express a purpose or a goal. Okay, so why am I doing what I'm doing? All right, so for instance, I study in order to get good grades or to get good grades. Well, to say that in Spanish, I need to include the word para. Yo estudio para sacar buenas notas. So that's A number one, a purpose or a goal, including in order to do things. Okay, here's another example. All right, yo voy al gimnasio para hacer ejercicio. I go to the gym to do exercise or in order to do exercise. Okay, so you're going to create your own underneath the A1 example there. Para is also used to express the special use of an object, right? So you're looking at a toolbox and you're like, what is this for? And your parent is like, oh, that's for fixing a dishwasher. All right. Or that's for, I don't know, that's for opening something, right? So you find a little can opener and you're not sure what it is. You're like, ¿para qué es? What's it for? Es para abrir las latas. So it's the special use of an object. Another example, A2 there, right? That tool is for fixing bikes. Esa herramienta es para arreglar bicicletas. So you use para to express the special use of the object. A3. Para expresses giving and receiving, like an exchange of possession. So the easiest example of this is money. Right? You work for something. You work for a salary. You work for a paycheck or a trade. You give somebody something in exchange for that, right? I also work for a person, right? Yo trabajo para las escuelas públicas de Roxbury. I work for Roxbury Public Schools. Okay, mi amigo trabaja para el restaurante. My friend works for the local restaurant. All right, now there's going to be a similar phrase with por, but it's got a slight nuance. So we're not going to get to that just yet. All right, but giving and receiving, a change of possession. So A number 3, right? Este regalo es para mi hermanito. This gift is for my little brother. I'm going to give this gift to him, and it's going to be for him. It's going to belong to him now instead of me. All right? Or I'll give you yogurt for your apple. Te doy mi yogur para tu manzana. Change of possession. A4, A4. Use para expresar la destinación, el destino o la dirección, expressing destination or direction. All right, where are you heading to? Voy para la escuela, or voy para el parque. I'm going, or I'm heading to the school or the park. ¿A dónde vas? Voy para el parque. Where are you going? I'm going to the park. I'm heading to the park. A5. Use para to indicate a time or date in the future. Okay, so for instance, you make a batch of cookies and your little brother wants to eat all the cookies, and you're like, no, these are for dessert, or these are for the party tomorrow. Estas galletas son para la fiesta esta noche o mañana. Estas galletas son para el postre. So when something belongs to a future date or moment. A6. Use para to say for or considering when you're comparing a noun with others of its kind. All right, so a good example of this is like, Your nephew is really good at juggling and he's a little kid. You're like, wow, he's pretty good at juggling for a little kid. Now, if somebody was an adult and they were doing what he was doing, you'd be like, all right, no big deal. But for a little kid, that's pretty impressive. Or considering he's a little kid, that's pretty impressive. So, para un niño es muy talentoso. He's really talented for a kid. So, considering that he's a kid. All right, A6. Para un viejo, Tom Brady es muy talentoso en el fútbol americano. Okay, considering that he's an old guy, or for being an old guy, as an old guy, Tom Brady is very talented. In other words, he's more talented than other people his age. A7. Para is used with the reflexive pronoun si to mean for oneself. This could also be mi or ti, right? So, for whom something is. All right? For whom it is. So, here's an example. All right, so for instance, the Grinch wanted power for himself. El Grinch quería el poder para sí, wanted it for himself. Okay. This also works with mi, ti, para usted, para nosotros. Okay. When it's for one's self. This is kind of a combo of A3 and A8, but just to show you that it can be used. Okay. A8. Para is also used as an adverbial clause to express an opinion or for whom something is true. All right, so, for me, seafood is great, but for my sister, seafood's just not her thing. All right, same thing with broccoli. Para mí, el brócoli es muy rico, pero para mi hermana, el brócoli es horrible y no le gusta. So, for whom is something true? For me or for you or for somebody else is it true? In other words, like, in my opinion. So those are your reasons to use the preposition para. Okay, now we're going to talk about por. So there's more reasons to use por, so it might be easiest to practice using para. Use por, B number 1, to introduce the agent or the doer in a passive construction. Passive voice means instead of saying I bought the pencil, passive voice is the pencil was bought by me. So it puts the person doing the action in a passive phrase as opposed to an active phrase. Okay, so el lápiz fue comprado por mí. Passive voice. Esta carta fue escrita por Thomas Jefferson. This letter was written by Thomas Jefferson. Passive voice. B2. Por expresses in exchange for. Especially when you're thanking people or paying for something. I hope this doesn't confuse us with A3. But when you are paying for something or you are thanking somebody for something, you're going to use por. So, gracias por tu regalo. Thanks for your gift. Or, I'm going to pay $10 for the pen. Yo pago $10 por ese bolígrafo. It's a very fancy pen. Okay, yo te doy 10 pesos por 2 manzanas. I'm going to give you 10 pesos for 2 apples. All right, so don't confuse that with A number 3, where A3 is more just showing like who this thing is going to belong to, whereas B2 shows you the process of exchanging it, the process of buying it or trading it. I'll give you this for that. All right, so I may have misspoken when I did A3, but use por when you do purchases and exchanges. Okay, B3. Use por to express along or through or via or by or around after a verb of motion. So I walked through the park, or I walked along the river, or I went to the game via Route 287. When you use a verb of motion and you try to travel to a location, you're going to use por. So for instance, para llegar a la escuela, notice I use para for a purpose, para llegar. So in order to arrive at school, necesitas conducir por la avenida Hillside o caminar por el Parque Horseshoe. You need to drive along Hillside Ave or walk through Horseshoe Park. Two different meanings, but the same idea of passage along or through a road or some trail or a highway or something that gets you to the new location. B4. Use por to express the duration of an action. How long was it happening? I've been a teacher for 10 years. My friend has been in Cub Scouts for 3 years. Mi familia y yo hemos viajado a Maine todos los veranos por 8 años. We have traveled to Maine every summer for 8 years. It's been going on for that long of a time. Use por. B5. To express an indefinite time, like in the morning or in the afternoon, right? So instead of saying the actual time, like 7:35 a.m., if you're saying, I'm going to do this in the morning, like dishes, right? I don't want to do the dishes tonight. I'm going to do them in the morning. Yo los hago por la mañana, in the morning. You're going to use por to say a general in the morning or a general in the afternoon. Okay. Normalmente yo leo mi libro por la noche antes de acostarme. Normally, I read my book at night before going to bed. B6. On behalf of, for the sake of, or representing, right? So if somebody sends a lawyer or somebody sends a salesman, right? Or if you are a peer leader and you're going to do a presentation in a class on behalf of peer leaders or on behalf of Rockstad, you're now working on their behalf as a representative of them, and that's going to be por. Yo trabajo por esta compañía, right? So para, you're doing it for getting something like money. When you say I work on behalf of somebody, I represent somebody like a lawyer does, or somebody who gives a presentation for somebody else or for a group. Now you're using por because you're representing them. You're not just working for something you can get from them. All right, this is a sentence more about representing them. So, for instance, los duendes trabajan por Papa Noel. Elves work for Santa Claus. Okay, who do you work on behalf of? B7. Por, meaning for, is used to show motive, including after verbs like enviar or mandar, to send. You're going to send for something. Ir, right? You're going to go for something. You're going to try to go get something. Luchar is to fight. All right, so if you're fighting for a cause, lucho por la causa. Regresar o volver is to return. You forgot something, right? And you're coming back. You left your keys or your phone at home. All right, regreso a mi casa por el teléfono. I got to go back to my house for the phone. And you could ask for something or ask about something. Preguntar. Okay, lots of examples for B8. So think of like going back to your house for a phone or fighting for a cause. B7. Muchas personas en el País Vasco han luchado por la independencia. Many people in the Basque Country have fought for independence. Okay, B8. A reason, including the cause of consequences. This one's a little bit vague. I'm not going to use this one very much because it can be a little bit hard to tell the difference between B8 and A1. But here's an example. The flooding in Ida was, there was flooding caused by Hurricane Ida. So we would phrase this, we wouldn't really use the word for in English, but in Spanish you can, right? Hubo inundaciones por la lluvia del huracán Ida. This one we're not going to use as often. B9. Use por to express a manner or a means. How do you accomplish something? Okay. So I buy my clothes online. Yo compro la ropa por internet. Okay. How do we get to Spain? Vamos a España por avión. We get to Spain by plane. Okay. What is the means through which something is accomplished? B10. Por can be used as per or by the for measurement, right? So, maybe you have a special phone plan where you pay per minute, or you could, talk about the cost of something like it costs $6 per pound, right? 30% de los estudiantes quieren empezar el día a las 7 de la mañana. You could also use it as a percentage. 30% of the students want to start the day at 7 in the morning. But again, another example, you could use it for like per. So, per pound, let's say, right? El pollo cuesta $3 por libro. Okay. B11 expresses estimation or assumption. We're not going to use this one very often either, but okay. The equivalent to for or as. So, yo solicité y me aceptaron por miembro del club de Thon, right? I applied for and they accepted me as a member of Rocksthon. This one's a little tricky, so we're not going to use that one as often. All right, B12. Por is used in certain adverbial expressions. Por eso, that's why. Por lo común, or por lo general, in general. Por lo visto, apparently, right? It seems that way. It is seen that way. Por supuesto, it is supposed to be that way. Of course it is that way. Por supuesto, of course. All right. Por mucho o más que action, no matter how much I do something, right? No matter how much I try, I am just not good at math. So that's your intro to por and para and their different reasons. So now do your own practice sentences. Try to create your own using these rules. And then you can follow the other videos and homeworks to learn this concept better. Adios.